If you're looking for ways to encourage your kids to learn about saving and smart spending, check out Kit, a pocket money app and card built by CommBank. It teaches kids about earning money through chores and saving in buckets, or what Kit calls stacks. Kit is free for eligible CommBank Yellow customers, T's and C's apply, or just $50 a year for up to 5 children. Download the app or visit heykit.com.au. You can also download Kit's free Pocket Money 101 guide from the Kit website at heykit.com.au. TMD available on the website. Consider if appropriate for you. The last couple of weekends, we've had some really fascinating conversations about kids, money, pocket money, delayed gratification, and how to help children to understand things like interest and spending and all those kinds of things. Today, one more discussion that I think is going to be really, really fascinating for you. If you have a child of internet age where they want to get online and spend Robux, or they want to buy stuff online, they can't help it with Temu, all that sort of stuff. That's our conversation today. Welcome to the Happy Families podcast. Real parenting solutions every day. It's Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. My name's Dr. Justin Coulson. And once again today, joined by Yish Koh, Managing Director of Kit, a pocket money app for kids, teaching kids about money. Thanks so much for being with me again.
Thanks for having me again, Justin.
So let's kick on straight away. I want to talk about kids and what's going on in their online lives. Increasingly, people have figured out how to monetize the online world, and our children are all too often victims of that. It's pretty common for kids to be spending money in online games. Sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't. Talk to me a bit about what's going on with kids in the online gaming world when it comes to either their cash or your credit card.
I think the thing about online games and spending in online games is that it's really easy. And with all that spending happening digitally, the kids are immersed in the game and they just want to keep going, or they want to play with and connect with their friends. And if they just continue to click buy, it's really easy for them to lose track of what they're spending, particularly in online games. You've got these microtransactions where it might be $2 here, $3 there, and before you know it, they've spent $100. So what's really important to help your kid with their online spending, firstly, is just to make it really visible. So if your child's got their own payment method where you can separate it out from your own credit card that's paying for these things, that's great, because if they run out of money, they've got no more money, and they will very quickly realize that when those transactions get declined. I know we did a survey a little while ago and showed that 1 in 2 parents said that their kids had spent money on their credit card without their parents' permission.
Wow.
So it's very common. So you're not a poor parent if this happens to you. It happens to many people. The other thing you can do is try and make a link between in-game currency and real life. So what these online games tend to do is try to obscure the relationship between real money and what's happening in the game. So, you're spending $8.50 and you get 500 Robux. Like, it's really easy to say 500 here, 1,000 there, and then just completely lose track of what that actually means in dollar amounts. So bring it up to your kid and say, in the last couple of weeks, this is what you've spent. How do you feel about that? And what could we have bought with that money if it was in the real world? Just to get them to have a think about that value and whether they feel like they're getting value for money. The other thing that you can talk to them about is online games are really sophisticated advertising machines, and it's not necessarily the fault of kids. So things like flash sales and, that false sense of urgency of, we've got 50% off on this today, you need to do this in the next day. Getting your kids to realize that some of these things may make them feel like they need to act on it right away, but it's actually a technique for the game to try and get more money out of you. So helping them realize that. And then if all else fails, parental controls.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit more about the insidious nature of the marketing and getting caught up in the game. So I'm not a gamer. I haven't played games for a long, long time. Last year, though, we went on an overseas trip, and I thought, I'm going to be sitting around in airports a lot. There's only so much reading I'm willing to do. And if I've got a 14-hour flight, I'm not going to read for 14 hours. I might download a game just to, play on the phone and do a bit of that. And I found that if I was sitting in an airport for a layover or whatever, it became really easy to pull the game out. But I started to care about the game a lot. I mean, you know what I do for a living? I talk to parents about how to make sure that their kids don't get captured by games in this sort of scenario. But I found myself falling prey to it. I didn't actually spend the money, but almost a couple of times. There's the value pack. You get all of these special skills and you get all of this extra coinage and you get all of this, like it's a big value pack and it's only $14.99. And I just knew if I bought the value pack, I'd be able to accelerate through at least 20 or 30 more levels really, really fast. And I'd feel so good about my life because, and I remember thinking to myself as I pulled away from the buy now button and thought, what am I doing? Like, as if I care that much that I want to spend $15 on this stupid game. I remember thinking to myself, it almost got me. And I've got the PhD in psychology. I'm nearly 50 years old. It must be so tough for kids when they're playing these games or their friends are playing these games. They want to level up. They know that their friends are on this other level. They can't quite get there. And for the $9.99 or the $4.99 or the $49.99, they can have this skin or they can have this weapon or they can have this gold or they can have this power booster or whatever it is. And suddenly they're where all their friends are. That's got to feel really, really good because there's so much status associated with how you play the game.
Yes, totally spot on. And I think what's even more insidious about some games on top of these sort of advertising techniques is also the fact that these platforms are open. So if you think about Roblox and, you can actually make money on Roblox by designing games.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have strangers who could be talking to your kids and saying, why don't you come and work for me? We can make lots of money. And suddenly you're in a totally unregulated employment market with people you may not know. So there really is not very much in the way of knowing that the user is a child and putting the right sort of safety mechanisms around it. So I think, Justin, you getting sucked into the game is totally the way for parents to really understand exactly what kids are experiencing and how it makes you feel.
Yeah, just to be clear, they didn't get me. I was able to resist. I was able to withstand. But
the PhD came in handy, I guess.
It was tempting for a minute there. Yish, while you're on this idea of earning money online, first of all, I reckon what you've just said about how kids can make money on Roblox and on other games, they can stream on Twitch and they've got their YouTube channels and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, you've got to work really, really, really hard to make any decent money, but there are some kids that are out there making some genuine money by what they're doing online. Can you talk a bit more about both the ways that children are earning money online and what parents need to know about it outside of the safety issues that you've just described?
We don't want to say the digital world is all bad because one of the benefits of the digital world is that there are lots of new ways that kids can earn money online now. We know that there are children who make their own arts and crafts like bracelets, handmade bracelets, personalized items that they can then sell on eBay or Etsy. You mentioned before, if your kids are 13 plus and with the right parental supervision, they can stream on Twitch or create YouTube channels. All of them need a certain number of subscribers to be able to monetize and earn money from it. The most important thing that parents need to know about this, firstly, is that if your kids are going into these things, firstly, what are the legal and state-based kind of rules around this? So typically there is either a requirement for your child to be a certain age or that you as a parent need to manage the account or supervise them. Secondly, if your child is selling things, and I know the social media ban will be coming in later this year, but if you are, for example, facilitating sales on Facebook Marketplace or things like that, to be really careful of who you're speaking to, and always, if you're selling things in person, to do that safely and never share your personal information with other people. And then finally, have a think about if their primary motivation is money. So it could be that they just love doing it and they want to make money, and that's totally fine if they want to spend their time doing that. But if they're going into this saying, I want to make more money so that I can save up to buy something that I want, help them realize how much time they're spending on it. If it's not something that they love to do intrinsically and they're spending lots of time and not making lots of money, it's definitely worth having that conversation around what are the other options. Because I see kids that do bake sales and they do extremely well on bake sales just sort of down the corner from where I live.
Yeah, I've got a daughter who loves the bake sale, and we've sat down with her and done the maths. We're like, okay, well, it costs this much for the flour and for the cake mix and for the chocolate chips and all this sort of stuff. And we've done this many hours of baking and cooking and whatever else. And this is how much money we've had with revenue. But once you take the costs away from the revenue, here's how much you actually made. Here's how many hours you worked. We work it out at an hourly rate and start to have the conversations around, is this a good way for you to earn money, or would you be better off just mowing my lawn and getting $20? And the kids are like, You can see the way they start to think about it. Clearly, the opportunity for scale online is amazing, which is why so many kids want to do it, and they love the status that comes with it. Some research shows that kids want to be influencers more than they want to be movie stars these days because the influencers have more followers and get more status, which I find fascinating. It can be helpful for kids to learn the basics of how finances work, especially in this digital age of invisible money. Kit is a pocket money app and card built by CommBank. It helps kids learn about money through earning, saving, and spending pocket money, as well as by playing fun games and quizzes. Kit is free for eligible CommBank Yellow customers, T's and C's apply, or just $50 a year for up to 5 children. Download the app or visit heykit.com.au. You can also download Kit's free Pocket Money 101 guide from the Kit website at heykit.com.au. TMD available on the website. Consider if appropriate for you. I don't know if this is one that you can answer or not, but I'm really curious about AI becoming more sophisticated and making scams realistic. Are you seeing anything in terms of scams and kids being online? Are kids getting done here?
So you might think that old people are the most vulnerable to scams, but actually the largest cohort of people who fall victim to scam tend to be younger people because their entire lives and a lot of the purchasing that they do happens online. What we see with some kids when it comes to those who fall for scams, it tends to be either they're purchasing from merchants who don't deliver the product or deliver one that's inferior. And often, fake shops that get set up really quickly with AI now, and they can either be copying a legitimate brand or they might be creating something that looks like a legitimate store and advertise themselves on social media online, and it just ends up being completely fake. The second thing we see is that there's often competitions or promises for free Robux, for example. If you just fill out this survey or fill out this competition, just put in your credit card details here to enter. AI makes it really easy for these scams to look realistic and make it hard for kids to realize that it's fake. So the golden rule that I always say, if you don't listen to anything else, the golden rule is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If someone's giving you free Robux, before you share your info, ask why do they want that info. So with buying online, I always say check if it's a legitimate merchant. So look at the domain name, for example. Is that the actual same website as the merchant that it says it's going to be? If you haven't purchased from it, if you've never heard of a brand before, be really careful and, always keep that door open to get your kids to check with you. If they feel that something's not quite right or they think that's not quite right, just have that conversation so that you as the adult can help suss that out as well. Because it's hard for adults too. Some of the scams, because they're impersonating really well-known companies, it can really look legitimate and look like the actual company. So contact the company directly if you're not sure, but also have a look in your emails and texts. So I know that those scams around the Hey Mum scam, it's the same thing. If you get someone online who's impersonating a parent and saying, hey, I'm stuck here and can you just send me some money? Having something that you've agreed up front around, maybe it's a password. It's like, if it's really me, you could say this, and then you know that you're not being scammed.
It's such a valuable conversation. We've covered so many things that really matter here. I really appreciate where this has gone. Fundamentally, when I look at the online world, I look at the way it targets all of us, adults, kids alike. It really feels to me, whether it's AI, instant Robux, or instant fame or instant whatever, to me, it's a world of instant gratification. Over the last couple of weeks, both with you when we spoke 2 weeks ago and also Nicole last week, as we've talked about money skills, the concept, the construct, the idea of delayed gratification keeps coming up again and again and again. I feel like it's really pertinent here as well. When you look at the most successful savers, and you've got access to all of this data with what you're doing with the Pocket Money app for kids with Kit, what do you see happening when it comes to teaching delayed gratification? Because clearly there are some kids that are doing it really, really well.
Firstly, I will say there's an element of delayed gratification that comes down to personality. And I know a lot of parents get really surprised and they say, I've got 2 kids, it's the same family, 1 kid, never spends any of their money. All they want to do is just have it sit there and watch it grow, and they're just super proud of it.
Yeah.
And they won't spend it ever. And then you have the other kid that's out just having fun with their friends, spending and like getting it to zero, and there's never any money in it. So there is definitely a genetic element to it. But there are things that parents can do to improve delayed gratification. So if you think about it, it's that core skill that makes you good at money. So if you think about saving money, investing money, it's always about foregoing that thing that's right in front of you and the thing that you really want right now for a future benefit. So as a parent, that role modeling is super important. So what we say as parents ends up becoming that internal dialogue of our kids. So what do you say when you're facing temptation? Are you the kind of parent that's like, hey, treat yourself? Or are you more the parent of, that looks nice, I'm going to think about it. I don't need to buy that right now, or I'm okay to wait for a sale. Secondly, saying no and following through. So this is my tip for preventing nagging, which is if your kids are nagging you for something and you say no, and then they nag you some more and eventually you cave and say yes, that's just saying whenever you want something, all you need to do is continue to nag until you get the yes. So following through with what you say you do really helps. Also, delayed gratification isn't a massive concept. So I call it like a muscle that you can strengthen over time. So if you can practice, set your kid up for success, help them to wait for small periods of time. So either give them a regular pocket money cadence where it's weekly, and as they get used to having to wait a whole week to get their money, then fortnightly, and then monthly like an adult as they become sort of older teenagers, they get that muscle of knowing that money doesn't come whenever they need it, but they need to wait for it. If they've done their chores, they need to wait for that payday. And then they get better at then waiting longer periods of time and then being able to budget and think about what they're going to do with that money. And then when all else fails, you can also set control. So if you do have that child, for example, that spends all their money all at once, you could say, when you get your pocket money each week, what we're going to do collaboratively is say, we're going to split 50% into a savings account that I'll keep for you, and then 50% that you can spend. So that way they don't get tempted. They understand the importance of saving, and you're setting them up for success.
Yeah, that's the approach that we've typically taken with our kids. We help them to set goals, we organise percentages and do it. Of course, if you can do it automatically, that makes it a whole lot easier. Yish, this has been such a helpful and important conversation. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Justin.
Yish Koh is the Managing Director of Kit, a pocket money app for kids, teaching kids about money. If you'd like more information and resources, we'll link to things in the show notes for you. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Coulson from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides our admin, research and other support. And if you'd like more info and more resources about the things that we've talked about today, or just about making your family happier, you'll find it all at happyfamilies.com.au. Kit is a pocket money app and card built by CommBank. Kit helps kids learn all about money, from earning, saving and spending their pocket money through to learning about money by taking quizzes and playing fun games. It's guilt-free screen time that helps them develop financial confidence. Kit is free for eligible CommBank Yellow customers, T's and C's apply, or just $50 a year for up to 5 children. Download the app or visit heykit.com.au. You can also download Kit's free Pocket Money 101 guide from the Kit website at heykit.com.au. TMD available on the website. Consider if appropriate for you.